Who are the most important Jaguars on this 53-man roster as we head into the 2022 regular season? We just wrapped up the fourth preseason game that they will play this year, and I really wanted to just do a quick breakdown of who are the most important players. Obviously there's some honorable mentions that need to be said. Whoever wins the kicking competition, that's a very pivotal role on any NFL roster. It's a really underplayed position, but it is a hugely important position, so whoever wins that one absolutely has to come out on top. Brandon Sheriff is one of the best, if not the best, Jaguars on this roster as we speak right now. Unfortunately, he does not play a very pivotal role on the team. Obviously, he's one of the best players on the team, but he doesn't play a pivotal role, so he's not that important to the success of the overall team. And then you got players like Tyson Campbell. He was one of my last snubs on this list. I really had my player number 5 and then Tyson Campbell. I was going back and forth. Ultimately, I gave the nudge to the other player. And you got a player like Evan Ingram. How well is he going to play? And I think he does play a very pivotal role due to the fact that he is ultimately one of the keys to success for Trevor Lawrence this year. And starting us off at number 5 is pass rusher Josh Allen. Ultimately, Josh Allen really did have a bunch of success early in his Jaguar career whenever he had other huge playmaking pass rushers like Unique Ngakoue, Calais Campbell, players like that. Whenever you had someone opposite of you like that can take a little bit of the attention away, that really does shine through. And it did for Josh. He had his Pro Bowl year whenever he had players opposite of him like that. But then once those two left, it really did seem like his talent, or his play rather, took a step back. The talent was still there, and we kind of started to see the disappearing act that he had happening throughout his young time in Jacksonville. But then obviously with the addition of a pass rusher that we're going to get to here in a little bit, he really is hoping that he's going to step his game up. And then the reason I have him on the most important list is because I don't want to see that same struggling and disappearing act that we saw from Josh Allen in the number 1 overall pick. As a rookie, you don't want to see somebody struggling. You want to have another great pass rusher, another very good pass rusher opposite of that young rook to really, take the pressure off. And that is why I have him as the number 5 most important Jaguar heading into the 2022 regular season, is just the fact that we need to have development out of the number 1 overall pick. Now, player number 4 on my list is wide receiver Christian Kirk. Kirk ultimately comes to the Jaguars from the Arizona Cardinals via free agency after signing a 4-year, $18 million a year on average contract, with a pretty much an out after year 2. So ultimately the deal isn't as bad as it was sounding whenever it was initially announced. People calling it crazy, calling it a bad deal, calling it a fleece. Christian Kirk is on this list as the number 4 most important Jaguar, mainly because of the lack of playmaking ability, that proven playmaking ability that currently exists on this Jaguars wide receiving depth chart. Ultimately, with the release of Laviska Shenault, who really wasn't a proven playmaker either, it was really just a wash of a bunch of number 3s throughout the team as it sits right now. Obviously, we could see some development out of Zay Jones and Tim Jones, but right now, as it sits, if we lost Christian Kirk, there would be a massive hole and there would be a massive target loss on this Jaguars wide receiver room, and they would be desperately looking to fill that hole once again. We'd probably see Laquan Treadwell return to this Jaguars team. But as it sits right now, he is presumably the number 1 wide receiver for the Jaguars, and without him, it would be a massive loss, and the impact would be felt almost immediately when you're looking at a guy that had a bunch of targets last year in 2021 with the Cardinals, and he's expecting to get a bunch of targets again here in 2022 with Trevor Lawrence. If the one preseason game we saw with Kirk and Trevor Lawrence playing together was any premonition of what the future holds for this offense, it is a heavy, heavy dose of wide receiver Christian Kirk, and that is the reason I have him number 4 on my most important Jaguars of 2022. Now, the number 3 most important Jacksonville Jaguar here in 2022 is running back Travis Etienne. Ultimately, Travis makes this list because of, just like Kirk does, there is really no home run hitting playmaking ability outside of the one player. Etienne is a make a man miss in a phone booth type of player. Obviously, yes, we have not seen it on game day, but right now as it sits, James Robinson is not ready to return to full-time play and really be the 3-down back that he was in his previous years in Jacksonville. And obviously, is Snoop Conner someone that can really take a 25-touch workload in the National Football League? That is definitely yet to be seen. So Travis Etienne is on my list as the number 3 just because of the fact that if he was not on the field, that is a huge home run making weapon that the Jaguars cannot use. They can't line him up out in wide receiver position. They can't line him up in the slot. They can't, they can't use him in motion. They can't do any of these things. And then that onus would probably go a lot onto Jamal Agnew, who is really going to be looked at as a gadget player. You really can't line him up and run him between the tackles like you can Travis Etienne, despite how little he really can do in between the tackles. But still, Travis Etienne, if he was not on this roster, it would be felt immediately, and there would be a lot of questions circling about what is going on with this Jacksonville Jaguars running back room as it sits as a whole right now, with Robinson not able to play, and then obviously Snoop Conner not being able to probably take a 25-touch workload and be a effective running back in the league right now. I talked about this guy's counterpart at number 5, but the number 2 most important Jacksonville Jaguar going into this 2022 regular season is edge rusher Trayvon Walker. Ultimately, he was the number 1 pick in the 2022 draft for the Jaguars. It was the second time in a row the Jaguars had been picking number 1. And ultimately, when you look at that as a whole, you need to get the most playmaking potential and most impactful players you can early in the draft. And that's exactly who I think they got. Trayvon is incredibly stout against the run. That's one thing that we have absolutely seen throughout the preseason while he's been playing, is that he is a playmaker. He's a run stuffer. He's an incredible asset to have on this defensive line for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And when you look at it as a whole, he really is going to take a lot of the attention off of Josh Allen, because of the fact that he is also a decent pass rusher. He's an incredibly strong and athletic pass rusher that can really get after the quarterback, even with just bull rushing against offensive linemen. We saw that against Jedrick Wills in the Cleveland game. But as a whole, the reason I have him as a more important pass rusher than Josh Allen is because Trayvon is coming to relieve the pressure from Josh Allen. We have yet to see what Trayvon can do without Josh Allen. We've seen what Josh Allen can do without another great pass rusher behind him. So ultimately, Trayvon Walker is not only pivotal to the success of this defense as a whole, but it is very vital to the success of fourth-year man Josh Allen. So that is the reason I have Trayvon above Josh and on to number 1. And of course, the number 1 most important Jacksonville Jaguar going into the 2022 regular season is the franchise, the prodigy, the golden child, Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence, whenever you're talking about a most important list of any NFL team, you're probably going to be starting with the franchise quarterback at the number 1 spot. It's very easy. It's very plug and play here for this list, but obviously he is the most important Jaguar going into the 2022 regular season. How does he look? How does his development look finally after a year without the snake oil salesman of the year, Urban Meyer? How does he look having a great training camp under his belt with Press Taylor, Jamal Cooter, Doug Peterson, obviously all of these great coaches that have been actually helping him, so what it seems to be like they've actually been helping him develop as a young quarterback in the league. Are we going to finally see that huge jump from him? Are we going to see that traditional year 2 leap from young quarterbacks like we've seen? Herbert had a huge first jump. Obviously, Burrow took his team to the Super Bowl in his second year. What is the second year going to look like for Trevor Lawrence? And that is the reason why I have him as the most important Jaguar going into this 2022 season, because the season pretty much lives and dies on the shoulders of Trevor Lawrence. You look at what is going to be lockstep with him, it is pretty much the overall success of the offense, and then the overall success of the offense will probably show you in pretty clear colors what the overall success of the overall team looks like. So as a whole, that is my list. I have Josh Allen as the 5th most important Jacksonville Jaguar. I have Christian Kirk as the 4th, Travis Etienne as the 3rd, Trayvon Walker as the 2nd most overall important, and then I have Trevor Lawrence as the most important Jaguar on this 2022 Jaguars roster. And I'd love to have you down in the comment section below. Leave me your top 5 for who you think are the most important Jaguars going into the 2022 regular season. I'd love to have that conversation with you guys, compare our lists. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe and go Jaguars.
How about them Jags?
Come on, Joe! Ah! Thank you, baby! Thank you, you make it blow!